And now, a story from the Appleseed.
Thank you so much. I thought I would tell you a ghost story. It's a rather beautiful ghost story. It's a ghost story that's been in my family for a very long time. And it goes like this. There was a man called Tom. And Tom had met the love of his life during the Second World War. Her name was Rivka, and he had met her in Europe. So you probably know where he had met her. He had been a soldier. He had liberated the camps. He had brought her home. They had fallen in love and got married. But they could not have children. They did not know why. And so the nursery that she had lovingly prepared stayed empty. And Tom found solace in walking to work. 147 paces to the underground, the subway. 1 tube into the city. He would work from 9 till 5. He would carefully open the greaseproof paper and take out his sandwiches that Rivka had made for him. And then he would come home and he would count the steps back to his door. And as they realised, as the days rolled into weeks and months, that they were never going to be blessed with children, he would watch as she got sadder and quieter. And then the dreams began. One day she woke up and she said, "I've had the strangest dream." And he said it was just a dream. But she said, "I heard a child, a baby, crying." And she tore the house apart, looking. And this went on, but the dream seemed to expand. Then she would see a house, and then she would see a gate. And then she would walk up into the house. And it was the old-fashioned houses that you got in Scotland in those days, just 2 stories, where you would walk in through the door, and there would be a door that led to a stairway, because they would close the door to keep the heat in. You would go up to 1 bedroom. And there was a kitchen in the back where they would bring out from under the sink an old bathtub and then put it back. And she could describe this house perfectly. And she would go up, and there in a cot was a baby crying. And it broke her heart. And so she would take a necklace that was the only thing that survived from their family. It had been sent over with a sister. It was the most beautiful amethyst set in what they called pinchbeck gold, which is gold that is mixed with other alloys. It's not expensive, but it was all that could be afforded, and it had come over with the aunt, and now it was Rivka's. And in her dream, she would take this pendant and she would hold it over the child, and the child would look, and as the light sparkled off it, the crying would stop, and she would try and hold the pendant, and then the dream would just stop. And she became obsessed with this dream. And she would tell Tom over and over, until Tom one day went to work, and Tom did everything by the book, as we say. Those steps, the work, the 9 to 5, the sandwiches, nothing changed. Tom liked routine. But because he loved her so much, he said to his boss, "Could I take 2 weeks holiday? I want to take my wife away for a break." And he bought a motor car. And not many people had motor cars in those days. It was an old Model T Ford. It was a second-hand car. It was all he could afford. And they packed up the house, they locked the house, they packed up what they needed, and they went for a holiday to Scotland. He thought it was just what she needed. She'd become so quiet and so sorrowful, and she seemed to live more in this dream than she lived in reality. Now, one afternoon, as they were driving through the Highlands, she shouted, "Stop the car!" Now, she was such a quiet woman. She didn't do things like that. He was so shocked that he stopped the car. And before he could do anything, she had opened the door and she was out and she was running across the moors. She was running over the hills and the wild places, and he thought, she's lost her mind. He was terrified for her. So he set off after her. And as he ran, he noticed that the hills gave way to a little road. There was a little village, and he just saw her standing outside a house. And of course, as he got up to her, she said, "This is the house. This is the house in my dreams. And I'm going in." And he said, "Well, let's not be too hasty about this. You don't know what you're going to find." She said, "No, I'm going in." And before he could stop her, she'd wrenched her arm from him. She'd opened the gate. She'd walked down that path and she'd knocked on the door. And when she got no reply, she opened the door and walked in. And the next thing Tom heard was two women screaming. And he was so worried that he ran. And by the time he'd gone up the path, these two women were in each other's arms, sobbing. And this was the story that they told each other that day. Rivka had been having these dreams. She could describe the house perfectly. And it was exactly how she had described it. But the woman said, "You have been haunting us. I have 4 children and a baby. I lost my husband in the war. The landlord is going to throw us out of the house. I don't know what to do. And the baby screams and screams, and it's only quiet at certain times. And when the baby is quiet, I would come out of the kitchen and I would see you as a ghost, walking through the door, walking up to my child, hanging this pendant, this amulet, this sign over my child. I didn't know what you were doing. I didn't know who you were. You were a ghost. And then you came into my house for real." This is a true story. It happened to my great aunt Rivka. And they became friends with that woman. They put all her children through college. And I have the amulet. I have the necklace. I haven't brought it with me. And we always call it the haunted necklace. Because if Rivka hadn't had those dreams, she would never have gone there. And if she had never gone there, they wouldn't have had the family that they had. They kind of adopted this woman and her children. So maybe sometimes our soul, our spirit, our longing can be as strong in this world as the next. For Rivka was a ghost while she still lived. But after she met that woman, she was no longer a shadow of herself. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us for a story from the Appleseed.